to be taken. Public comments pertaining to the joint council and PUA items, a 3-minute comment person has been established. Public hearing. Item 2, public hearing notice to consider all evidence and testimony for or against approving the fiscal year 2014-2015 Public Utility Authority and City General Fund budgets. Staff report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, starting first with the Needles Public Utility Authority budget. The NPUA budget has been prepared. It was reviewed by the utility board of the NPUA. They approved the budget. It is a balanced budget, and their recommendation is that you approve the budget as they have recommended it.
Questions by the board?
I have one.
Ms. Wilson.
Mr. Daniels, what's your recommendation?
It's the same.
Okay. Yeah.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Call for the vote.
Public hearing also.
All right, again, is there any public hearing on the matter? Seeing none, call for the vote.
6 ayes, Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Kidd.
Yes.
Frazier.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Darcy.
Yes.
Stevenson.
Yes.
And Mayor Paget, you get to vote?
Yes.
Yes, 7 ayes.
Council resolution number 2014-28, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Needles adopting the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2014-2015.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the general fund budget is presented to you. It is a budget, it is a balanced budget the way that it is presented, but there have been some changes since this draft was issued, and let me run through those. First of all, for the benefit of the people in the room, is the total funds of all funds in the city budget is about $20 million. But that includes dedicated funds, enterprise funds, restricted funds that can only be used for a certain purpose. For example, there are going to be funds spent on the interstate I-40 J Street project that can't be spent on anything else. There's air quality grants that can't be spent on anything else. The funds that most people pay attention to is the general fund, and that's the only fund of the city where you have discretion. So you have discretion of about a floor of $20 million. Generally, the budget that is drafted and presented to you has been through approximately 4 months of preparation, numerous meetings. First started with the department heads on what their requests were. Had a deficit to it. We trimmed that back. We held a work session with your council, and we've trimmed it back since then, focusing primarily on expenditure reductions. Generally, we're expecting a drop in general fund revenue for the upcoming year as the economy continues to have an adverse effect on the community. There are 2 notable items in here, or one notable item is that the city has completed its contractual obligation on BASHs, and that's a savings of $200,000. Another significant change of about the same amount is in the past, as the redevelopment agency was dissolved, there was about $200,000 that still came to the general fund for us to assist us in shutting that down. Those funds no longer come to the general fund, so that's about $400,000 of the $500,000 reduction in revenue that we're expecting for next year. As I said, the budget is balanced, but 4 things are out there that I consider moving parts. The first of which is at your last council meeting, you authorized the mayor to send a letter to the county sheriff requesting a reduction in police costs. The sheriff's cost of that $4 million, the sheriff's office to service the community costs about $2 million. And so your council authorized a letter to go to them asking that the sheriff reduce that budget roughly just short of 10%. And through a reduction in 1 officer, where instead of 7.3 officers serving the community would go to 6.3. We've not heard a response back yet from Sheriff McMahon on that issue. If they agree, then that creates a cost savings of about $175,000. The second thing you asked me to do after last meeting, which we've not received a response yet, is from the county fire. And county fire has gone from $608,000 this year to $694,000. 11% increase. I talked with Chief Benefield a couple different times in the last couple days, and he is at work trying to find a reduction in that number. I told him we needed to get it down to the number that we paid last year, $608,000. A couple options he's identified is there are currently two operations down at the station. One is brush patrol, which is primarily an unincorporated area, and then there's a regular fire unit which responds to fires inside and outside the city. We could take, or he suggested that one of the options, if his superiors will allow him to do so, would be to eliminate the brush patrol and just run the one truck. If so, that could reduce the cost down to about $600,000. So that would be an additional savings that would now, so $90,000 on top of the $175 comes to $265. So there is potential good news, but those are if. But those are potentials that could be available for other uses or to put in a contingency for a rainy day event. The budget, the third item, which is a moving piece, is because the city does not have a veterinarian of record at the animal shelter, which state law requires, then the animal shelter was removed from this upcoming year's budget, and we were going to be forced to close the animal shelter. Since that time, we had an opportunity to, the mayor made a connection with a veterinarian who resides in Riverside but has a second home in Pirates Cove. So she is, her name is Dr. Lily Mesa. She travels this road and would be available to stop, make sure that the animal control shelter is kept in good condition, that there's sanitary conditions, the animals are being well cared for, and that those that need to be put down are put down properly. She has offered to perform this function, be the vet of record, for no charge. So it's even gets better. She would also agree to conduct 2 rabies clinics a year, and as the vet administering the rabies vaccine, she would charge $6 per shot for animals that needed rabies shots. So she would keep the revenue from that, but it's probably considered insignificant compared to the whole matter. So therefore, the cost projected for the animal control shelter was approximately $135,000 when we expected to have to cover a veterinarian coming out here from San Bernardino County Animal Control. But they refused to, they declined the opportunity to serve the community. Last year's budget was $122, and the difference there is the cost of it the county made that available. We have tracked expenses for this year, and we are on track for expenses at the animal control shelter of between $90,000 and $100,000. So an option available to the council now that there is a veterinarian of record would be to add that cost of animal control shelter, $100,000, back into the budget. And if the money wouldn't come from the savings that we would realize if on the fire and police contracts, then we would have to go into the budget and find $100,000 additional to cut. So that's a policy choice that you have available. Now, just for point of reference, the the animal control shelter generates about $5,000 of revenue in terms of gifts, donations, animal licenses. But it costs about $100,000 to perform that function. So it is a relatively heavily subsidized program. But many communities consider animal control a part of the public safety platform, because animal control deals with vicious dogs. They oftentimes, when the sheriff's office does an arrest and removes the individuals for whatever crime they might have committed, they're animals. They're oftentimes animals left behind and need to be dealt with. In some instances, people just leave the community, leave their animals behind. There's other instances where people leave and leave the dogs out in the desert or in a city park. There are also instances where people tire or can no longer care for animals. In that case, they bring them in. Now, Deanna has been able to create a very effective adoption program, but we just cannot adopt animals fast enough. So that is the third moving piece, is the animal control. The fourth moving piece is again a new piece of information, and this comes from meetings that was held with the Parks and Recreation Commission last night. And so I want to give you an update on their recommendation, because they reviewed the budget. Now, I've been to the Employees Association, the Planning Commission, the Utility Board, Parks and Recreation Commission, Cemetery Board. So our goal has been to air and vet out the budget. Last night, the Parks and Recreation Commission took a look at the budget and made the following recommendations. That the city consider an increase in the annual pass at Jack Smith Park. That they increase the fee for Pee Wee League by approximately $5, and they establish a non-resident fee of an additional $5. And the theory is that of the 400 plus kids that are playing in that league, 93 of those kids, or 90 some kids, are from outside the community. The other 310, their parents are subsidizing through their general property taxes and general taxes they pay the city. The people from XYZ community outside the community, there is no comparable contribution to that. Therefore, the Parks and Recreation Commission suggested a variable rate that people outside the community pay a non-resident fee of $5 for their kids to participate in this program. Maybe they'll save the money and move here. The Parks and Recreation Commission also voted to recommend that you increase the team registration for when we have a basketball tournament, that teams pay a fee to come and play in that tournament, that be increased by $25. And that fee is comparable to the fee that's being charged, and actually in many cases less than what's being charged at Big Bear, Beaumont, some of the other communities. So they've suggested an increase in that fee. They also discussed the summer camp program and agreed that, recommend that they would reduce that from an 8-week program to a 4-week program. The goal here is not to eliminate any programs, but instead to tighten some up. The next action they took was to charge an admission, for example, at the basketball tournament where we have, help me Jennifer, 40 teams that show up, that there be an admission to attend those. In the past, there's been no charge. They looked at a variety of different charges that other communities have. Either Beaumont or Big Bear, one of them has $20 that an individual pays for the whole weekend. The other community, I believe, has a $5 charge. The Parks and Recreation Commission's recommendation is that you have a $5 charge per person per weekend. Now that is a nominal amount, but it would help offset the cost of the building or field maintenance, whatever. The next change that the Parks and Recreation Commission recommended was to increase the hours for the Jack Smith boat launch kiosk. And that is that the hours go to Weekends in March and October from 9 AM to 4 PM, where currently we're at 8 AM to 2 PM. And the idea is that the longer hours will capture more users that have learned to put their boat in after the kiosk is closed, or before. In April, May, and September, Monday through Thursday, that the times would be 9 AM to 6 PM, Friday through Sunday, 7 AM to 6 PM. We're there from 7 AM to 4 PM. And the theory there is that on days like today, if we leave at 4 o'clock, someone comes in at 5 o'clock, uses the facility, and they still have 3 or 4 hours of daylight, and in sometimes the best skiing water in the evening. So this would allow us to capture that revenue that would help us offset the maintenance of that facility. June through August, 7 days a week, we'd go to that 7 AM to 4 PM. And on holidays, we'd continue to open at 6 AM. So the belief would be, and it's unquantifiable at this point, what additional revenue would be collected by those expanded hours. But intuitively, we believe that it will be worth the effort. Now, it's not just a revenue issue, there will be cost. Right now, we pay the kiosk operator minimum wage. Minimum wage goes from $8 to $9 an hour. So there will be an increase, and as we increase the hours, there'll be an increase. But we believe that what we're trying to find is that point where the kiosk is open, where it more than pays itself. So we're not open when there's no business there, but we are, and this may take some adjustment over a year or two to find that sweet spot about where we're exactly being cost effective. But we wanna apply business principles to the operation of the boat ramp, that generates significant revenue. So without taking longer than I have, my recommendation to the council would be to tentatively approve the budget as presented, but for these 4 areas: the fire, the police, the animal control, and allow us to incorporate the changes that have been unanimously recommended to you by the Parks and Recreation Commission. Let me back up, I forgot one. I had recommended that, again, not wanting to eliminate any program, but to cut back. I had recommended, unwittingly, that we not open the pool next year until July 1st. Well, as it turns out, and I've been informed and educated, that June is the most popular month of the year, of the 3 months. Because as school gets out, everybody heads to the pool. There are swim lessons, there's open swim, there's lap swim, there's exercise, and everybody wants in the pool in June. And that peaks in July and then begins to peter out at the end of the year as school comes back into session in August, as people try and get in their vacations before the end of the year. So my recommendation now is to not reduce the pool hours. I concur with the Parks and Recreation Commission and the public input that was provided there last night. So it will take me some time. I don't have a budget ready for you, which incorporates those changes that the Parks and Recreation Commission made last night. So, again, my recommendation would be to adopt the rest of the budget, but for these 4 areas, and that I bring those back to you for your final consideration at your next meeting, which is June 24th. At that point, the budget will be ready for adoption. I'd be glad to answer any questions, Mayor.
Go ahead, Mr. Goodman.
My concern is if we do have the savings and stuff and what the Park and Recs have brought forward and stuff, we can have the savings. I would like to implement the summer hours for the summer camp back to 8 weeks. We should have substantial savings if we can get other money there.
Well, yeah, if the
ifs go.
Right, and I would bring back, as if those events happen, then, as I said, there could be as much as $250,000 then I would bring that back to your council to decide, do you put that into, reserves in the event of a rainy day, which we've been drawing from the last 2 years? Or do you put that into restoring some of the cuts that have happened? But that would be your council decision, and it would only occur if we hit the if scenario.
Question for Jennifer. On the pool, for this year, because school, I believe, starts earlier in August, like August 16th, does that affect the use of the pool, or what's the closure date then for the pool this year?
The school district uses the pool for their PE swim, and they pay for that service, and that covers the lifeguard. I met with the school district, and we are going to see a substantial increase. We have not been, I kept the same practices that were in place prior to even me being the recreation manager, and the cost. When budget cuts came about, I looked at everything, and so I went to the district and I met with them regarding the pool and our after-school program. So regarding the pool, you know, we went over the costs and the fees and what it actually costs, not just lifeguarding. And we will be seeing a substantial increase in that. If I'm not mistaken, it was about a $4,000 increase. They do PE swim for the month of May and for the month of September. Now, when we hire guards, we hire them in the month of about April or May. So we have guards that we know are returning, and I have 2 guards that work every day for that. Normally what I do, the practice is, those guards are actually working out of department and working in the recreation center already. So it works that I'm able to move them over there and do so. So the pool's not open to the public, it's considered a private rental. It's considered a private rental, correct.
Okay.
And then in June, they do their private rentals for all their kid classes and things like that. Same thing, they pay for those. Nothing, even though we have facility use, it's considered, the pool is different, it's a private rental. And then we have the school does, I think that's about all the school does, except the football team, they rent it for a Friday night in August.
Because we had open swim up to the end of August prior, didn't we?
No, we did not.
Did it close earlier?
We
in
closed
August?
the first week
I
of
know, but
August.
It dramatically decreased in August.
Right, it used to be till the second week, and we had cut it back, to the first week of August. So this year, the closing date is August 7th, is what's on the schedule now.
So it'd be just for school use then
Right,
in
and
August.
we had, back in 2011 for budget cuts, we had closed the pool for weekends in July and August. It is only open weekends in June. Last year was 5 weekends, so this year is 4.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell?
The budget committee went over this morning, and I think the budget committee's in tune with the city manager that these are the 4 areas that we are still in flux on and have to tie up by the 23rd before we have our next meeting. But one thing that's been going on is we're in the process of auditing our motels and hotels in town. I think the last time it was done was 2005, so before me. And so there may be some monies recovered there that we can't really account for until we complete the audit. And we've been trying to audit our medical marijuana dispensaries. We feel that they're shortchanging us too. We still have a little bit of a problem with what happened in January, because they're claiming that all the records were taken by the sheriff's department. We're gonna continue to work and try to cooperate with the sheriff and the district attorney to see if we can't get our hands on those records, because I feel 10% of that evidence is owed to the city of Neely. Because that's our ordinance that you passed. And hopefully, some other sources of revenue can be addressed by this council to get our cost of services. Some of the things were brought up in the utility board meeting about pole attachments and what we charge versus what other cities charge throughout the state. There's some other areas where we can improve the utilities financial picture. And, but there is not gonna be any prepayments on the purchase agreement in the next couple of years until we get this budget revenue process
so will we know in the next 2 weeks what, San Bernardino County Sheriff's gonna do and San Bernardino County Fire's gonna do? Is that a fair statement?
I believe on the fire, we'll know, and talking with Chief Benefield, I believe I'll have an answer within the next couple of days.
And the next question I got is.
But on the police, on the sheriff, world of respect for Sheriff McMahon, I'm sure he's gonna respond in a timely manner. There's no benefit to delay, so I would expect that once he considers it, we'll hear from him.
I'm sorry.
But I have no idea when that letter response may come back.
Okay, and then looking at the budget, it showed 122 for animal shelter.
Right.
Is there anywhere in there that we can fine tune that?
Yes, I believe that number, and I discussed it with the animal control officer today, that we think the number, and we'll fine tune that for your consideration at your next meeting, is somewhere between $90,000 and $100,000. But we will get that down, to the penny and the number of paper clips used.
Okay, and we're hoping to get 100 from the fire?
Yes,
Okay, so what you're recommending right now is to go ahead and pass the budget, as is, without those 4 components, correct? And you're gonna bring those 4 components back to us?
right, I wanna move those issues where we all agree on, and there's no public controversy, over here in the safe harbor.
Right.
So I can focus on just the 4 outstanding.
So those 4 outstandings are gonna continue as is until we find out what the what-ifs are?
Right.
Okay.
And if the event is that we don't hear an answer or something else, because things will change. After you adopt this budget, you can amend it the day after,
Right.
as new information becomes available. It's just that we need an adopted budget by June 30, so as we take the snapshot and close the books, we need to start new purchase orders and what have you for the upcoming year.
So do you feel at our next meeting, we'll have more information on
Yes.
any of those 4?
I believe, my goal is, I know we'll have it on, I think, I believe we'll have it on fire. I know I have it already, I just haven't had time to input it on the Parks and Recreation's recommendations. And on the police, we just haven't heard back. What was my 4th? Animal control. That we do know there's been and it's just a new piece of information.
Right.
That's all, and we will have a more detailed number for you.
So to kinda sum this up, we now have a vet, so we're legal.
Yes,
Okay, we might be able to take it from 122 down between 90 and 100,
yes,
and we just need to see what savings we get from the other entities,
yes.
correct? I move to approve.
Just kind of a statement is the difficulties of doing a budget. This year was even more unusual than usual, than normal, because you had declining revenues and so forth and so on. But also you had El Garces to throw in there, and we somehow have to pay for it, to run the lights, run the air conditioning, and so forth, and everything. So besides stretching it to pay for what we always had, now we're stretching it to pay for something that's brand new down there, and we're hoping we're gonna get some rent from things out of there, but we really haven't got anything but maybe $1,200-1,300. So, these 2 people here had a terrible job to go for it, and, the employees in Needles are at risk, just like everybody else is, because when money starts dwindling down, jobs are either removed or just never replaced, and everyone just does more and more and more. And then, we're fortunate El Garces is here, but we're not fortunate it's here because we have to pay for it. And that is part of the formula you see that's happening right now. So
Yeah, and there's
that's-
just more expenses and less revenue,
Exactly.
state and federal too, so you just have less to work with.
Mr. Mayor, may I add a
Yes.
comment? While we've worked our tails off to get this budget balanced, looking down the road, we've only solved the problem of the moment. Because what we're seeing is that as the economy is coming back, in this part, not so much in this part of the country, but in other places, that vendors are starting to charge more money. So we're seeing supplies and our cost increase. We've also seen an increase in insurance costs. So everybody who held back during the recession and raising their prices is now feeling a little bit more optimistic and are starting to raise their prices. So if our revenue stays level, you know, that'd be a good thing because we've dropped this year. But as our costs increase, we're gonna have a serious problem if we don't look at long-term revenue solutions for the community. Or else we'll be in the same hand-wringing position every year.
Thank you, there's a motion.
No, this is a public hearing and it can be continued, and it's going to have to be continued if we don't adopt the resolution as presented.
Well, I started to make a motion that I passed it as is without the four, components that come back after more research and work has been
I
done.
think Terry, did you second it?
Well, I can second it, but I wanted to make a comment. I don't wanna take any credit for this. The city employees, the department heads,
Right,
finance department, and Rick Daniels,
they've worked very,
fresh set of eyes looking at some of these numbers and these, and, basically they deserve most of that.
Is that a second?
That's a second. So we have to open it to public comment. And maybe I missed that again, but we do need to get public comment. And then
I appreciate
what
that.
the city manager indicated, he's asking you to tentatively approve it, subject to formal approval when we come back. There's other items
Other
addressed.
issues
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna open it to public comment on the budget. Anyone wanna have a hack at it? I don't see any.
Your Honor, I got a comment.
All right, go ahead.
I told a couple of people on the council today, I've been working in Blythe the last couple of days, and I counted 27 closed businesses on one strip on the main drag.
In Blythe?
In Blythe. If you don't get out of Needles, you don't realize that it's having an adverse effect everywhere. It's just not Needles.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second, call for the vote. This is a tentative approval of the budget.
Right, it's tentative, so it's not final. You're not adopting the resolution. It's really an indication to the city manager of your, agreement with what he's submitted, subject to those.
Other than the
Items.
four, right? Other than the four.
Thank you.
6 ayes, Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Kidd.
Yes.
Frazier.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Darcy.
Yes.
Gibberson.
Yes.
Thank you.
NPUA/council regular items, item 3, NPUA council action, approve the electric metering quality assurance